inexcusably bad loss for the Dolphins, without a doubt. There's no sugarcoating it. With that said, though, I actually think this loss is a good thing for the Dolphins moving forward. Like, I think a loss like this to the Titans on Monday night actually makes this team more dangerous come playoff time. Here's why. Hear me out. I know it may sound backwards, but let's discuss it. Number one, we saw last night, right, the Dolphins offense just go in the tank as soon as Tyreek Hill got hurt on the second drive of the game. And they were never able to rekindle that explosiveness that we've seen most of the season, and they didn't really know how to act whatsoever. But now the good news is, with Tyreek Hill injuring his ankle, and we'll see about his status going forward. I mean, he returned to the game in spurts yesterday, so I'm going to assume he's going to play on Sunday against the Jets. But either way, if you're Mike McDaniel, you got to at least game plan of he's not going to be MVP level Tyreek Hill on Sunday, maybe for the next few weeks. But that's a good thing from the game planning perspective, because now it forces McDaniel to game plan and call plays for life without Tyreek Hill. Because whether it is an injury or whether it's in the playoffs, like we know in the playoffs, teams will do whatever it takes to stop your best, what you got, right? Your number one option, right? That's Bill Belichick done it every year in the playoffs. What do you do best? Let's take that away. So come playoff time, teams are going to double, maybe triple team Tyreek Hill to make sure he does not beat them in the playoffs, which means Tua and McDaniel are going to have to learn how to get others involved and learn how to generate offense, not through Tyreek Hill, but maybe through Raheem Mostert, maybe through Jalen Waddle, maybe through Devon Achane, whoever it may be. Now this forces this Tyreek Hill ankle injury, whether it keeps him out of any games or not, it forces the Dolphins to start preparing now, with still a month to go in the season. It forced them to start preparing like they are in the playoffs, because you can't expect Tyreek Hill in the playoffs to be lined up one-on-one. That's not happening. There is not going to be one play this postseason where Tyreek Hill is on an island one-on-one with no safety help. It's not going to happen. And so I think every team's going to try to take him away. And now if you are McDaniel, you can now learn to scale up an offense and learn in the next few games here how to generate offense better without Tyreek than you did on Monday night. That's only going to make the Dolphins better going forward. To where if Tyreek Hill, unfortunately, does get hurt again, or let's say a team just says, you know what, we're not losing to Tyreek Hill, and they put 3 players every play on him. This is now going to force McDaniel, and by the way, Tua, to find different outlets and basically figure it out. That is, I think, really good. A really good test right now. It's still time to go. It's still time in the regular season to experiment, find out what works, what doesn't work. So I look at that as a positive, number one here for the Dolphins. I think another positive is yesterday's a wake-up call of how far this Dolphins defense needs to go. There were some good vibes around this team, and the defense was making plays, scoring touchdowns, getting sacks, slowing opponents down like Sam Howell and Tim Boyle. It's pretty humbling, though, when Will Levis comes in there and carves you up. Becomes the first rookie in NFL history to throw for 300 yards on Monday Night Football. To lead the Titans down the field, not once but twice, in the last 4 minutes of the game, to score touchdowns, get a 2-point conversion, and walk out of there victorious. That's humbling. That is, I think, the humble pie this Dolphins defense needs to eat. Because I think it does kind of, almost in a way, serve as a punch to the gut, and now it's how you going to respond. How you going to respond? I think that's a good wake-up call for a defense, especially. They got torched by Levis, only sacked him one time, couldn't make plays when it mattered, couldn't slow down DeAndre Hopkins, by the way, who had a big game himself, 124 yards and a touchdown. A loss like this, in an embarrassing fashion on national TV. It's one thing to lose in the 1 o'clock window, where there's like 3 or 4 crazy endings, and you got big games later on in the 4 o'clock Eastern and the 8 o'clock Eastern window. So it's like, it's easy to get lost or maybe not get all the spotlight on you if this Dolphins-Titans game was at 1 o'clock Eastern on Sunday. But when it's a national televised game in front of a massive audience, that only forces or brings more criticism, I should say, to this team and wakes you up more. I think that criticism, again, can be used as more of a positive to get this team going in the right direction and kind of wake them up versus a negative. I think a loss like this also helps to prevent complacency. It sounds obvious, right? Oh, we're in the last month of the season. You could see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now we're talking about playoff seeding, so you see how important these games are. But, I mean, you're human. I'm human. We all take the foot off the gas. We all maybe lighten up sometimes, think we're on cruise control. That Dolphins team up by 14, they admitted it last night. They took their foot off the gas. They thought offensively the game was over. They thought defensively the game was over. And now, being kind of devastated, heartbroken, and flat out embarrassed on national TV for letting up and giving your opponent air and then having them come back and beat you up, that's a good thing. Again, I think it gets you refocused. And that's why I think, again, this Dolphins loss is more of a positive for this team now going forward than a negative. It wipes away complacency. Any of that comfortable feeling. Anything of, we got this. We're the number 1 seed. If we win, we're looking good. People are coming to Miami. Look at us. We're on Hard Knocks. We're winners of 4 in a row. Feeling our oats. No. Yesterday was a punch in the mouth. Tennessee came down there and gave him a little right hook to the jaw. And the Dolphins got knocked down. I think getting punched in the mouth in December can be a good thing. Wake you up. Get that edge back. Get that playoff focus back. I've been watching a lot of Hard Knocks. The in-season one with the Dolphins. And I liked, first of all, it's on tonight. Very excited for tonight. Very excited to see tonight's episode and kind of how the players reacted to that loss as it was going on last night. But last week's episode, going back, Mike McDaniel was highlighting how the calendar turned to December, and last year the Dolphins in December were winless. Did not win a game. Now, obviously made the playoffs, but did not win a game in December where really you want to turn it on and be playing your best football. And that was, I think, a real sticking point for this team where they were like, oh, we're not going to have that happen again. And you go beat the Commanders, and I'll say, okay, fine, we were winless last year. Now, so look, we got our first win in our first opportunity in December. We are good. And allows complacency, even though, again, you won just one game this month. I think it allows that complacency to set in. It's human nature. It does happen. And I think yesterday, that harsh reminder, in the way it happened, collapsing at the end, having Tyreek Hill injured early and not having the offense be able to figure it out at really any point throughout the rest of the game. Having victory ripped away from you by a team in the Titans that did not play very good and beat themselves up a ton. That is, I think, a good thing, especially when you look at the final 3 games of the schedule here for the Dolphins. It's ending really tough here for Miami. We're the final 3 games of their season. Home against the Cowboys, at the Ravens, home against the Bills. The Dolphins are obviously in the playoffs. And I think they have the AFC East locked up. I'm not believing the Bills. 1 win over, look, the call by of Kadarius Toney being offsides was absolutely correct. But with that said, we are still talking about 3 inches deciding that game, and maybe all of a sudden the Chiefs win that game and the Bills lose. They got lucky to win that one. Buffalo did. I'm not buying all of a sudden this big turnaround for Buffalo that now they're going to make a run to go into the playoffs and win the AFC East. Dolphins are winning the division. But these 3 games to finish off the year, after they play the Jets on Sunday, Cowboys, at the Ravens, Bills. You want to see how good this team is come playoff time? You want to see if this loss is actually a good thing for this team? We'll see it right there. They are refocused, re-energized, playing with that chip on their shoulder again. Have answers if Tyreek Hill is taken out of the game or gets hurt again. They still have an offense that's not going to fall apart. That's how you know this loss was a good one. I think we're going to see that. I'm still a big believer in the Dolphins. They have to win a big game first. They have 3 opportunities to. Cowboys, at Ravens, Bills. I think bare minimum here, if you want anyone to believe in you, you got to go 2-1 in that 3-game stretch. But that's where we will see going to playoff time whether this loss was a benefit for Miami or detriment. You can go one of two ways, right? This loss can either spiral, hang over your head, not get over it, and all of a sudden that leads to a sloppy performance against the Jets, and now all of a sudden you're in your own head and free-falling. Or you can rally. You can use this loss as a positive. Have it wake you up, refocus, not allow you to take the foot off the gas again. And when it's an opportunity to close out a game, whether it's in the regular season or in the playoffs, you play the full 60 minutes and you don't allow anyone, once you got him down, once you got the foot on the throat, to get up. So yes, I think Tennessee exposed a few flaws for the Dolphins on Monday night. This offense needs a lot of help without Tyreek Hill. A lot of help when he is not on the field or not 100%. This defense, when you need it the most, could not come through. They still have their warts on all three levels of the defense as well. Coaching has to be better. Physicality has to be better. I know they're banged up on the offensive line, but that offensive line has to be flat out better. So there were flaws for sure, but I think these flaws are all fixable. I think Monday night is more of a wake-up call that the Dolphins needed to fix these flaws and make sure that come playoff time, if these do arise again, you will make sure the same mistake does not happen in the playoffs as it did like we just saw on Monday night. I think this loss, for how embarrassing it was, how unbelievable it was, and how costly it was, that it probably cost you, at least right now, the number one spot in the AFC. It took away a bye, and it took away home field advantage throughout the playoffs. That's costly if you're unable to get it back. But with that said, I think this is going to be more of a good thing for the Dolphins going forward. I think more of a positive in the lessons they will learn and the wake-up call they needed versus a negative of a, oh boy, a lot of questions, a lot of concerns with that Dolphins team.